Hi, this is Dr. Moby with Lifestyle TV, and today we have great guests. Let's welcome Jesse Jackson all the way from Texas.
Hello, Dr. Moby. Welcome and happy holidays to you.
And happy holidays to you. We see you are in beautiful red for the Christmas
Yes,
and the holidays.
today, this is our Christmas week at my office. And so every day we have a different theme, and today is red and green day. So, yes, I'm in my red shirt with my Ted Lasso scarf because I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan.
Very nice. Very
Yes,
looks great on you.
thank you.
Also, yeah. Okay. Also, tell me about your podcast. I know you do a lot of podcasts on music.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Jesse Jackson, not the guy who ran for president. As you can tell, I look a little different than the Reverend Jackson.
Hmm.
I live in Dallas, Texas, and I do several podcasts, but the main one is a podcast called Set Lusting Bruce. A podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I've been doing this for over 6 years. I've had over 700 episodes. And what
Wow.
I do is I talk to fans of Bruce Springsteen's music from around the world, and they kind of share with me what his music has meant to them, how it's helped them through the
Mm.
good times, the bad times, helped them to get through, to help through marriages, births, deaths. And then the other thing I do that I love, Dr. Moby, is I have other fans of other musicians join me as well. We do what I call B-side episodes. So if you love Metallica or the Bee Gees
Uh,
or Pearl Jam, uh, you know, they come on. I had someone who loves Leonard Cohen, and so they come and they share with me how that musician or that band has been a vital part of their life. I think music is one of the most important parts of a person's life, that it is the soundtrack of our lives. And so I love talking to people about what they're passionate about and how that music has affected and give them. So that's the podcast.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, you mentioning all the singers which I love, and we are so much inspired by them. Bruce Springsteen, of course. Who can forget Born in USA and
Exactly.
Dancing in the Dark. I think is iconic songs.
It is, and it was very interesting. The lady who loved Leonard Cohen brought up a good point that um, you could make the argument that Leonard Cohen's most famous song, "Hallelujah," and Bruce Springsteen's most favorite song, "Born in the USA," are both misunderstood songs by a lot of people. That a lot of people think Born in the USA is a very patriotic song, and it is about the beauty of the USA, but it also mostly is about how veterans were treated after the Vietnam War. And so it's always interesting when they play Born in the USA during a fireworks celebration, and you want to go, have they listened to the lyrics of the songs?
Okay, so yeah, I know. So it's I think he definitely performed so well,
Yes.
on and his whole presence, his personality, everything matches. For
Yes.
some reason, of course, that is for sure. Yeah, so that is, I think, how did you fell in love with Bruce Springsteen?
So like many people, I discovered him. A good friend of my wife's back in 1980. Linda and I were just dating, but she had a friend, Lisa, who came back from the East Coast. She was going to school on the East Coast, and she came back talking about this guy named Bruce Springsteen. And I ended up buying The River and liked it. His first radio hit was Hungry Heart. And then, I listened to Born in the USA like everyone else, Tunnel of Love. I bought the box set, but I was kind of a casual fan. And then 2002, I finally had the chance to go see him perform live.
Mm.
Moby eh, just for various reasons. I had never seen him before, partly because at the time I was living in a small town in Louisiana. He kind of, I was, like in just family obligations and all this other stuff. So 2002, I went and saw him here in Dallas. It was the Rising Tour. And, I don't know if you remember, but right after the towers fell, like a couple weeks later, they had um, a fundraiser. And the fundraiser opened with Bruce and a lot of the E Street Band doing My City of Ruins. It's absolutely beautiful. And I was struck by that. So when I went to the show, I was immediately struck by, everyone talks about how powerful Bruce is live, and it really was true. And the story I tell, Dr. Moby, is there's two kinds of people: the
Mhm.
people that go to Bruce their first time and go, "Wow, that was a long concert," and then the other people go, "Oh my goodness, I want to go see this guy perform live every time." And that's happened to me. I then became, really became passionate. I had been podcasting. I had done a Doctor Who podcast, and I'd done a podcast about the ABC show Castle. And I went to the guy who owns our network and I said, "Rob, I want to do a Springsteen podcast." And this was like in 2015. And he goes, "Okay, what's a Springsteen podcast?" I said, "Well, I'm going to talk to people who love Bruce Springsteen music." And he says, "Okay." And 6 years later, as I said, I've talked to people from around the world.
Wow, wow. I mean, Bruce Springsteen has huge fans all over the world. I mean, people love. I think
Yes,
people identify his song to actually they will know more about that song than the national anthem.
absolutely.
So, but in a way, it is a national anthem.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and so I've been lucky enough. Like I had a mom from Australia call and tell the story that her son, she was hit by a car while she was carrying her son. She was pregnant, and he was born severely um, learning disabled, and for like 3 years he did not speak. And she was in the car, and a Bruce Springsteen song came on, and he started nodding his head to the music.
Mhm.
And he had never done any of this before. So she went home and she found every Bruce Springsteen song she could and started playing it. And all of a sudden, he started listening and he started responding and he started trying to say the words. And, he is now like a 12 or 13-year-old man who can read, write, he speaks. And all of this is through Bruce Springsteen. He learned to read by watching Bruce Springsteen videos with the closed caption on.
Wow.
And so, and I asked her, I said, do you think your son was happy before he discovered Bruce's music?" And she goes, "This is mom. I hope he was, but the reality is, I think Bruce not only gave him his voice, but gave him joy in his life."
Mhm.
And then I had another parent join me that his daughter was born premature, and he would read Harry Potter to her every night, and he would play Bruce Springsteen music. And she, even being premature, she made it. She's now a lovely 7 or 8 year old girl. And a few years ago, Bruce was doing signings because he had published his autobiography, and she got in line and got to talk to Bruce. And it wasn't very long because he didn't get to talk long to anyone. And they
Mhm.
asked, Jennifer, which is her name, were you disappointed you didn't get to talk Bruce very long? And she goes, oh no, he knows me. He wrote all those songs for me.
Wow.
So yeah, so and then, I've just had fun people that, I have a lady from uh, the Netherlands that she calls herself the Dutch country Courtney Cox, because when Bruce was touring in the Netherlands, she got on stage and danced with him in Dancing in the Dark. And the film people, where the local TV station filmed it. And so she jokes about that she's the Dutch Courtney Cox because she got on stage and danced with Dancing in the Dark. So the episodes are all about, some of them serious, some of them fun, but I think all of them are interesting, similar to your show, right? Where you're just talking to people and letting them share their stories.
Yeah, no, we basically share what you are, and we never do scripted. I know the topic, but we want to hear you. We want to ask you and kind of honor you what you do, and that's what our shows are all about.
Yes, sir.
People can have all kind of scripted shows, and I mean, I'm sure there's a value for those, but our brand is what you are.
Yes.
So also tell me, what are your other favorites? I know probably we
Yeah,
share.
so I'm as you can tell from the poster behind me, I'm a massive comic book fan. Superman is my favorite character, though I really love all superhero comics. I'm a big reader. I love science fiction and mysteries, and so I do that. Doctor Who, the British long-running science fiction show, is I do a podcast called Next Stop Everywhere, where me and my co-host Charles Skaggs talk. Whenever Doctor Who is new, we talk every week about a new episode, and then when it's off the air, we go every other week and we talk about a classic Who episode. So I love the Doctor Who, big Star Trek fan. um, love just I remember falling in love with, Spock and Kirk and Uhura and everyone else when I was a kid. So and then I love all kinds of music. I love, countries like Brad Paisley and Johnny Cash. And
Mhm,
I love this singer songwriter named John Hyatt. And Bobby Darin,
mhm.
just a lot of different music. And so and living here in Dallas, like everyone else, I'm most people are Dallas Cowboy fans, and I am too. So uh,
Oh,
we
okay.
do a little bit of sports too. And one of my other podcasts is How Many, where like three or four of my buddies get together and we talk about pop culture and the Cowboys and just whatever topic comes up.
Okay, well, I have to ask you, I know Dallas Cowboys is big, in
Yeah.
Texas. Well, what about, and they call them America's team, American football.
Yeah. So the interesting story about that is in the 70s,
Mhm,
the NFL Films was doing, they would do films about teams, and at the end of the year they were looking to try to figure out what do they call this story about the Dallas Cowboys, and they realized that the number one um, team that sells the most merchandise was the Dallas Cowboys across all of the country.
mhm,
So that's why they gave them that term, America's team. um, Sometimes it's really hard to live with it because that makes you, people hate you even more. But I kind of feel like the Cowboys are the New York Yankees. You either love them or you hate them,
mhm.
and people love, hating the Yankees. So I know people love hating the Cowboys. My son, um, has grown up watching them, and that's a family rituals. Every Sunday, he comes over to the house. He's now an adult, and we watch the Cowboy game together.
Mm. No, I mean, I have nothing. I mean, I like them. I like football. I mean, I have my favorites, but I like,
Yeah,
my number one Steelers, and number two, I have number two, three also. Just in Vikings too, and
yes,
then I like Packers. Some players. I think I'm more into some players. Probably I like more
Yes.
even. We enjoy football. And for team, sure. I mean, I also wear black and gold, and of
Yeah.
course, we'll have colors. But I
So
think, yeah,
so
you're
Dr.
right.
Moby, I don't know if you've heard the story, but your listeners may not have. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys played in the 70s, some of the best Super Bowls, and the Steelers won both games. So then in the 90s, the Steelers and the Cowboys played again, and this time Dallas beat. And so Lynn Swan was talking to Roger Staubach,
Mm,
and Lynn Swan was from the Steelers, and of course Staubach was the quarterback for the 70s Cowboys.
mm.
And Roger's like, "Well, man, it's finally good we beat you." And Lynn said, "No, no, no. They beat them. You never beat us." And I
Oh,
loved that this is 20 years after that Super Bowls, and there's still that competitiveness fire between Lynn Swan, and it was all in good nature. It was just fun. So I love that. And the Steelers, eh, the thing you can admire most about the Steelers is they know what kind of team they want to be. They want to be a hard-nosed defense, a lot of good running, and just they have stayed consistent every year by year. That's a great franchise to love.
yeah, I think, I mean, as a franchises, and there are other franchises too. I mean, I can admire fan following of Packers.
Yes.
There are teams, their fans will travel no matter what.
Yes.
And Steelers, Cowboys, and even Packers, of course. I mean, we can name others too, but there
Yes.
are die-hard fans. They wouldn't take anything for it.
I absolutely agree. Yes.
And so I think about Dallas, I think I love they have their the best, cowgirls.
Yes.
They have the best presentation. I think they have the cheerleaders, best cheerleaders for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the cowboy cheerleaders are iconic, and then Jerry Jones, who's our owner, really put a lot of money into that new stadium. Now, I think the new stadium in Los Angeles, the SoFi Stadium, is close, if not maybe a little better than Jerry's Stadium, but for a long time, the stadium here, AT&T Stadium. We call it Jerry World locally, but yeah, it's amazing. It's a beautiful, and every seat is good for watching football.
Oh, I have never been to,
Yeah,
and I actually travel all around the country to just visit stadiums. And
yeah,
unfortunately, because of COVID, I had to delay that kind of.
yes,
That's true. But I want to make sure that next time I come to Dallas and kind of check out Jerry's World, and then
that
probably
would
do a podcast, and maybe we can get
we
together.
can get together. That'd be great. I'd love
And
that.
yes, and we'll catch up, I think. Also, tell me, what are the other music influence? I know you love other music too.
Yeah, so my first musical obsession love was I loved the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson.
Mm,
I just, in fact, there is a new Brian Wilson documentary coming out that I'm looking forward to. I love the movie Love and Mercy, starring John Cusack. If your listeners and
mm.
viewers have not watched it, please go check it. It is amazing story of Brian Wilson's life. I just think that Pet Sounds and so many songs that the Beach Boys have done, truly, they sold California. They sold that lifestyle where, kids in the 60s, living in Minnesota or Nebraska or, Kentucky wanted to go to California and, ride the waves and, cruise the coastline.
Mm,
So I love them. I talked about my father was a big Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Merle Haggard fan, so those will always have a place in my heart. There is a lot of country music that my parents listened to. So I still keep in touch with country, a lot of older stuff more than new, though there is some stuff I really like. And then, as I mentioned, there is a singer or songwriter called John Hyatt, who is from Indiana, and he wrote Are You Ready for This Thing Called Love by Bonnie Raitt? And he wrote Perfectly Good Guitar, Have a Little Faith in Me. I just read a biography of him, Have a Little Faith, the John Hyatt story, and the writer Michael Elliott will was on my podcast, and his episode, as we're recording this, will drop tomorrow. So it'll be December 14th. I have an interview with the guy who wrote the biography on John Hyatt. And so that was pretty interesting.
Yes, that is. Thank you for sharing all that.
No
Also,
problem.
tell me, you were gonna share also about something about your cancer diagnosis. Yeah.
Yes. I am so thankful, but 5 years ago, um, I was really having a lot of stomach pains. And my doctor kept, well, I think it's this, I think it's that. And finally, it was, I was just in pain. And my doctor said, go to the emergency room. And so I went to the emergency room and they said, well, we think you have a tumor. We think it's cancerous. And then by the third day, it definitely was, it's cancer. And so all of a sudden, you're told that, you have colon cancer. Um, and um, at one point, they were worried that because of my weight and my age, would
Hmm.
surgery be too dangerous?
Hmm.
And Dr. Moby, my, all my family and friend knew I needed to be alone, so they left me alone in my hospital room. And I took my phone and I made an F cancer playlist, and I
Hmm.
started putting all the songs that meant a lot to me. You know, there's a local singer-songwriter from Austin called Sarah Hickman. I put some of her songs on there. I put John Hyatt songs on there. I put Bruce Springsteen songs on there.
Hmm.
And I just put my head under the cover and played this tunes over and over again, like Better Days, Land of Hope and Dreams,
Hmm.
um, Tougher Than the Rest. And um, and I kept that playlist, and I ended up having surgery. Everything went well. They said, we now need you to do chemo. So I had 6 rounds of chemo, and um, every time I went to chemo, I had my phone and I was listening to music. I would not watch videos. I wouldn't listen to podcasts. I would just listen to music over and over again. I do.
Wow.
Yeah, I will share you a fun
I,
story about the the cancer. So, um, you know, we're at the oncologist, and they're talking about the chemo,
mhm,
and he the lady said, and okay, one of the side effects of this chemo is you will be very sensitive to cold, so you will not be able to drink any cold beverages for probably the next year.
mhm.
And all of a sudden I went, what do you mean no cold beverages? And my wife was the exact speaker. Okay, let me stop for a moment. You said you have cancer. He didn't phase you. You got a blood clot. That didn't bother you. They talked about you had surgery. That doesn't bother you. They're talking about chemo doesn't bother you. You can't drink a cold Diet Coke. That's what upsets you.
That's funny.
Yes. And I said, well, so it was true. There was every 3 week cycle. And so I would have an infusion, then 2 weeks of pills, then a third week with no chemo, and then start over again. And that third week, when I wasn't on pills, I was able to drink some beverages. But those 2 weeks, everything had to be room temperature. It was odd, even going into the refrigerator to get like some cream for my coffee. My hands, I would have to use a towel. But 5 years later, I'm in remission, and everything's good.
Well, congratulations, and what a story, and stay positive. That's the message we always say. If music helped you, sure, do whatever keeps you more positive. Have hope, and you will do. I mean, very well. So, I think your story really touched a lot of people, and also for colon cancer, just make sure it's unfortunately still the one of the top killers. I think it's still number two, but it rate has gone down, which is good news. But it is still, up there. So we really need to do better job with colon cancer screening and pay attention to risk factors, which you had already told some of the, weight
Yeah.
and also animal fat, and unfortunately, it does cause problem. So
Yeah.
we need to pay attention to those. And if you have a colon cancer history, make sure get more periodic screening. Do
Yes.
not ignore. Do not
Yeah. I,
ignore.
I, I I agree with you so much, doctor. No one enjoys going to a colonoscopy, but it truly is more uncomfortable than painful. And the reality is, talking about the Dallas Cowboys, right? Dak Prescott, who's their um, starting quarterback, his mother died of colon cancer. And I have a coworker, we were talking, and her husband died of colon cancer. So I am very aware that I am very blessed
Mm,
that that I was able to I had a good surgeon, and I had great nurses giving my chemo. And I do, I also believe in the power of positivity, and believing in the best, and laughing a lot. I think that being able to laugh and enjoy, and I don't think being a Pollyanna and focusing on the positive is a cure all, but I do think having a good attitude and being grateful about where you are in your life, no matter the circumstances, does help you to cope with the tough times and help you appreciate the good times.
Well, thank you for coming to our podcast, and people can check out your link, and I already copied that on
Oh,
the
thank you.
promo. And it was pleasure knowing you and meeting you, and looking forward to see you at Dallas and at Jerry's Stadium.
Absolutely. We will share a meal when we can all travel again. Please, listeners, go get vaccinated. Go take care of yourself. Be good to each other. If you want to reach me, I am on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. Dr. Moby, thank you so much for your time.
It
Thank you
was
so much
pleasure,
for what you
pleasure,
do.
and
Best of love to you. Happy holidays to you and your listeners.
take care, take care. Okay,
Bye
bye.
bye.